We're going to break this up into a two-part video. The first part is going to be now the very basics of Tevillas Keylim, the very basics of the halachos of immersing utensils that we buy when they are new. And the second part, which we'll do, will be specifically dealing with how do we do Tevillah today on large utensils that are electric and have components that are going to get ruined if we put them into the water. So let's just start with the very basics. There's a mitzvah, mid'oraisa, a mitzvah in the Torah, that anytime a Jew acquires a utensil from a non-Jew, there's a mitzvah to bring that utensil to the mikvah and immerse it in order to be mekadesh it, in order to elevate it for the use now. Until now it was used to help run the world, to keep people eating so that the world would run, and now it's going to be used to help run the spiritual world. When a person eats and we pay for our food and we eat it and we are a part of the consuming population of the world, we're not just contributing to the world economy and to the world running, but we are creating spiritual realities through our acts of eating, and therefore the utensils that we buy need to be elevated. This is a mitzvah in the Torah. It has nothing to do with kashrus. This is separate. It's in the same Psakim that we learn the halachos of kashering kelim, of taking the treif that's embedded in a kli out of it, but that's not what Tevillah in the mikvah does. Tevillah in the mikvah is even for a brand new utensil that was never used. It's not treif. There's a mitzvah to bring it to a mikvah, a halachically valid mikvah, and to immerse it in the mikvah. There's a bracha. We say, Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu al Tevillas Keylim. And it's preferable to have more than one at a time. Otherwise, you say al Tevillas Keylim. Now, any metal is required in Tevillah, but any of the basic metals that we have that our pots and utensils are made of, steel, silver, if you've got anything with gold, all the basic metals that we make our utensils with are required to be toveled, as well as glass. Glass is midrabanan, however, we tovel glass with a bracha as well. The reason that glass is midrabanan is because it resembles earthenware in some ways, which does not require tevilah, right? Things like china do not require tevilah, or ceramic mugs, even if they're glazed. The glaze that we have is not actual glass. Anything ceramic, regular coffee mugs, china, anything like that does not require tevilah. But anything that's made out of glass or Pyrex or Corel or Corningware or anything like that, those are all different forms of glass. Those all require Tevillah with a bracha, because glass is similar to metal in the way that it is strong and melts and such. So when it comes to Tevillas Keylim, we are tovel glass, even though when it comes to kashrus is a question what status glass has. However, glass we tovel also midrabanan. So any metal utensil or any glass utensil we tovel with a bracha. Now the utensil has to be, this material is in contact with the food. For example, a spoon. You have a spoon that's made out of metal, stainless steel, so that's coming in contact with the food, and that's how it's meant to be used. So that is something that would be requiring tevillah. Same thing with a pot or a pan, anything that comes in contact with the food in the preparation or the eating of the food. However, what if you have something that's metal but it's coated with plastic or silicone like you have nowadays? You have a lot of things that are, a spatula that's metal on the inside and then it's coated in plastic. So the halach is as follows. If the utensil is made to be used in such a way that it's meant for the metal to come in contact with the food, for example, let's say you have a spoon and it's got a silicone handle and a silicone top, but there's a metal part in between that's exposed, so that would require tevillah, because that metal part of that spoon is certainly meant to come in contact with the food, and it's an integral part of the utensil that touches the food. However, if you're talking about a spatula that would be made the same way, I don't know that you would tovel that. I would tovel that maybe without a bracha, because on a spatula, that part of the metal is really not meant to come in contact with the food. So that's the halacha. If there's metal that's exposed or glass that's exposed, that's in contact with the food, that's a part of the utensil, so then that is a utensil that requires tevillah. If it's totally covered in plastic or some other material that does not require tevillah, so then you do not require tevillah even if there's metal inside of it. If there's any question, obviously, that comes comes up about any specific utensil, you should ask. Some utensils are questionable. Let's say like a kitchen thermometer, a candy thermometer or something along those lines. So certain utensils, it's better to tovel without a bracha or to ask a shaila specifically about them. Finally, when we do tevilah on the utensil, we have to make sure that there is no chatzitzot. We have to make sure that there is nothing interceding and that the utensil is completely clean from any dirt or stickers or anything. If it was used before, it has to be cleaned completely. Any sort of chatzitzot that's a part that's stuck onto the kli that we find out afterwards, we have to remove it and tovel the kli again. If it's a significant chatzitzot that we didn't notice, we would have to tovel with a bracha. If it's something very small that we only noticed much later, so then you should tovel it again without a bracha. You're not allowed to use a kli until you tovel it. If you buy a pot or a pan or a knife or a fork or anything, you're not allowed to use it until it is tovelled. That's an isser, it's an avera to go ahead and do that. However, it does not affect the food. The food that was cooked in a kli or prepared with a kli with utensils that were not tovel, the food you may eat, lechatchila, you don't have to throw it out, you can eat it. However, you have to go ahead and make sure to tovel those kelim before you use them again. Okay, that's the basics of the types of materials that require tevilah, the types of utensils that require tevilah, as well as how the tevilah is done without any chatzitzas. And then we will go on to large appliances or electric appliances that we can't tovel in the next video.